guy without having a replacement. And if it was a smooth transition, oh no, that's okay. He wanted to spend more time with his family, and we were going to replace him anyway. You would already have your guy. No, this is a panic fire.
Well, and also, I mean, especially, look, firing someone like that is going to make news. You understand that, and that's why they always ask for resignation. The idea that they didn't ask James Comey to resign instead of being fired seems hard to imagine for me, which implies that James Comey refused to and was then fired.
Exactly. So they might have asked him, but Comey, he's like, no, I won't. Yeah, well, that's a good point. I have no idea. Yeah, but if you ask if Comey's boss asked him to do something, the answer is usually no. So if they asked him to resign, he probably said, no, there's no reason to resign. Understand this, if you hadn't heard it earlier, James Comey publicly announced in Congress that he's investigating the Trump administration for connection to Russia. So there isn't anyone in the country who's involved in politics that doesn't know that firing James Comey is basically saying, okay, look at what James Comey was investigating because I don't want that to come out. And you would never, ever make that move unless he had you. Unless he had you and he was gonna make that public. So Trump is in a world of trouble.
When you add to it, of course, I mean, so there's the collusion idea that they were sort of working, during the election or whatever. That's one thing. But then earlier this week, I think it was Clapper that said he couldn't speak about something because of alluding to the idea that there was a non-election specific business investigation going on that might prelude the actual election by several years. That could be a part of this as well. It might not be directly related to the election.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Not yet. Not yet.
That was that.
Okay. But this is the beginning. All right, put a clock on it. Trump is now walking around the ring, getting stuck in one corner or another. He's hurt, dog. Don't ask him if he's all right. There's no way you fired James Comey unless you're in a world of trouble. That he had evidence that you had colluded with the Russians. Now they will replace him with the world's largest hack. Because if he's already got the evidence, the only way you cover up that evidence is by putting an absolute political friend who will cover up for you under any circumstance. So, Chris Christie, they're on line one for you.
Yeah, that's not impossible.
So, we'll see.
I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, we'll see who he puts in. But right now, the Attorney General, the Deputy Attorney General who ordered the dismissal, the recommendation to dismiss him, please. And whoever the new head of the FBI is will furiously try to cover up for what Trump has done. You're not going to be able to bury it. You're nuts. Firing Comey can almost only make it worse. Yeah. So the only way that it makes any sense at all is if he was going to put handcuffs on you tomorrow, then I guess you fired Comey. But otherwise, you have just started a giant political dumpster fire for yourself.
Look,
ladies and gentlemen, we got.
No, not yet.
All we have is ladies and gentlemen. That's what we have.
It's coming.
Yeah, but just one little thing too. I mean, Trump doesn't talk directly to the press too much because they're fake news. But he does tweet, and we do know we can chart what he's worried about at any particular time by how much he tweets about something. Look back over his history of the past 48 hours, what he's been tweeting about. He's worried about something, and it's probably related to Comey's dismissal.
One super last thing. Guys, not only do you not fire James Comey unless you want the political headache of a lifetime, you would never do that unless you were desperate, but you certainly don't fire him in a panic. There were handcuffs in Donald Trump's future, and there might still be yet. It's going to be awesome.
All we got is ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I'm not getting too excited.
But, okay, I'm fucking excited, dude. He's hurt, dog. He's fucking hurt. Okay?
Yeah.
Oh, man, that kidney blow is going to be fucking great.
Yeah.
When he does this, sink it right before he fucking crumbles.
Is there anyone you prefer to see in handcuffs?
Damn! What an exciting time to be in news! my job.
It's a
Okay. All right, listen. Before I tell you the next, what was supposed to be the exciting announcement.
It still will be.
Yes. Let me tell you one other fun thing. We did that poll yesterday on Hillary Clinton. Should she join the resistance or go to the woods? It has accidentally lit the internet on fire. Over 62,000 votes in under 62? Yeah, in under 24 hours. And in the beginning, it was 93 to 7, go back into the woods. And then join the resistance, took the lead. Yeah. What the? Okay.
4% of the vote was go into the woods covered in honey. Actually, that's provocative.
So it was like 55-45 join the resistance, and then the woods made a comeback, and it's now 66-34 go back into the woods. So if you want to participate, tytnetwork.com/Hillary.
Yeah.
Join the rest of the internet, voting on that poll.
Yeah.
You know what? Here, let's do an impromptu one. We'll have to work this out. But tytnetwork.com/Comey, COMEY. Okay. What do you think? So, is Donald Trump done? So it shouldn't be Comey. It shouldn't be Comey. It should be. Should we do just Trump? Yeah. This is a big one. tytnetwork.com/Trump. Is Donald Trump done? Yeah. Damn!
And if you haven't already voted on the previous one on Hillary, go do that, because if we get 100,000 votes, we get McNuggets for the rest of our life. Pretty exciting. Looking forward to it.
Okay. I have so much more.
Can I throw out one little fun thing? We're not going to do a full story on this. I thought it was ridiculous. Did you see the thing about Trump and exercise?
No.
He apparently counsels people not to exercise because he believes you are born with a finite amount of energy, and if you exercise, it wears out that energy and you die sooner. This multiple reports, he has literally told people who work for him to stop exercising because they'll die sooner. Okay, which is what Victorian era physicians thought was happening.
He's done. He's fucking done.
I don't know. That's not
okay. No. It is directly related.
Is it really?
It is, and I'll tell you why. No one that stupid can cover up a connection to Russia. If he owed Russia hundreds of millions of dollars, which I think he did, and then he made a deal with them about the election, he ain't smart enough to cover it up. And he's so dumb, he kept Comey on when Comey loves to be principled and get the guy who's his boss, right? And then oh shit, Comey's got me, I'll fucking fire him. Moron! I told you he's a total fucking moron. If you exercise, you use up the energy of your life.
Yeah.
The guy's a total blithering idiot. As usual, I was right all along.
Maybe he could have covered it up, but it would have taken too much energy, and he wants to see his grandkids.
Okay, all right, we got it. All right, so, exciting day, all right. Let me give you the next story, okay. Boy, have we got an exciting announcement for you guys. It's been an exciting day all around. Joe Manchin, a bit of a blue dog Democrat. Not so much of a Democrat, period. Conservative Democrat has voted with the Republicans over and over again, voted for most of Trump's cabinet nominees, including Scott Pruitt, to destroy the EPA, and Carson, the list goes on and on. I'll share that list with you in a second. But that's okay. That's okay. You know why? Because his time in the Senate is about to run out. Damn. We've got a Just Democrat candidate that we want to tell you about. Her name is Paula Jean Swearengin. And seems like a nice lady from West Virginia. Grew up there. Got kids there. She's worried about those kids, 3 kids. Lives there now. Her website is paulajean2018.com. What does that mean? Does that mean that she might be running against Joe Manchin? You got that right, sis. Okay, paulajean2018 on Twitter as well. I'm going to tell you who she is, and I'm going to give you some quotes of hers. Now, how many times has she run for office before? 0. This is when the corporate Democrats will say, oh, please, I do declare, she's a real person, is she? Yes, she is indeed. She's a mother of 3. She's worked to make sure that there's not toxins in the air or in the water for her kids. that everybody in West Virginia has a job and is safe, and that you can do both, that's possible. Man,
It's as if I've already found toxins in the air and water.
Well, already. Okay, I shouldn't get around about that. Okay. So let me give you some of her quotes. She said, "We are tired of being collateral damage, and we all deserve jobs." So her point is, look, yeah, is there coal mining in West Virginia? Of course! And she comes from a coal mining family, and her dad was a coal miner, and her grandfather. But she says, you know what, we can have jobs and still not kill the citizens of West Virginia. That we can do it in a safe way. And that there are some ways that are acceptable to get energy, and mountaintop removal is not one of them. And you know what else mountaintop removal does? It actually kills coal mining jobs. So the only people in favor of mountaintop removal are the people who get paid by the people who do mountaintop removal, which one of those guys is named Joe Manchin. Okay? It does not create more jobs in West Virginia, and all it does is pollute the environment and destroy the great outdoors of West Virginia and the nature there as well. Another quote from Paula Jean Swearingen here is, "The Industrial Revolution was built on the backs of coal miners, our backs. We provided power to America, and now it's time to empower ourselves."
Damn.
Okay, so now I want to show you guys some videos from Paula. First one is going to be when she took on Joe Manchin. It's town hall. She decides she's going to step up and start to get people's attention a little bit. She's fighting for her community, and you won't see Manchin here. He's up on stage. The camera's pointed at the people asking the questions. Let's listen to Paula go after Manchin here.
Our streets run orange and black. It's destroyed. Who's going to clean up the mess with those dogs in here?
So she says our streams and our water's running orange and black, and she knows because she sees it. It's unfortunately what her kids have to bathe in every single day, etc. And Manchin seems to be saying up there, no, it doesn't. Yeah, if you're incredibly rich and you're living off of donor money, Joe, yeah, I'm sure you got filters in your house and you're doing whatever you need to do up in D.C., but don't deny their existence. Don't deny their reality, because that's the reality that they live in. You don't know the stuff that gets put in the water based on the stuff that you voted for. You're wildly disingenuous. Now, here in the same event, a little bit later in the questioning, she's going to break down his false choices. Because what does a corporate Democrat like Joe Manchin want to do? They're like, oh, no. If you don't vote with my donors, if you don't let me give everything to my donors, you're going to lose your jobs. Basically, hijacking and holding your jobs for ransom. She does not accept that paradigm. Listen.
We want clean and safe jobs, and we want to teach for our children. I'm tired of you tell me
she said, look, we want a clean environment, clean water for our kids and jobs. That those things should not be mutually exclusive. Yeah. And he's like, well, no, some people want jobs, so we're going to agree to disagree. Agree to disagree on what? That
just diffused the situation then. Agree to disagree.
Okay. No, agree to disagree. No, you got to have poison water if you want jobs.
If somebody's talking about like being worried about their children's future, that's an area you don't get to agree to disagree.
Yeah.
I think people take that pretty seriously.
Yeah. And hey, look, Joe, you wanted to agree to disagree. Well, be careful what you wish for. Now you're going to agree to disagree in a primary. Okay? So we do not accept that corporate Democrats that show for big business are going to do better in red states. There's no evidence for that. And we think that a person who's going to actually stand up for West Virginians will do much better in West Virginia. So, Joe Manchin, you stand up for the donors, and we'll see you in the primary. So, now, I want to give you one more video here in this segment about Paula's meeting with someone you might recognize during the last presidential primaries.
When the coal industry's gone, we're not going to have anything left for any people to clean up the mess. They have not been extreme fire protection will be only water protection in there. They just got rid of it, and everyone used to be right like that. Jim neighbors to kill. I buried my daddy. I watched my people grow. I buried some of the family members to this industry just like everything's on the main grass. I cried. I cried.
That's starting right there.
Yeah. Even in while he's younger, he's like, I don't want to overpromise you. He's like, but he wants to keep it real
Because he doesn't lie.
Yeah, and so look, at that point, she's not a politician, not anybody. She's just a mom in West Virginia, and so this is the first time she ever run for anything. Like I said, her grandfather died from black lung. Her uncles have it now, and she thinks that maybe we can have an economy that works for everybody. By the way, now solar power employs more people in America than coal does. So it's coal is
growing way faster.
That's right. Coal is not the only option for West Virginia. The opponents make absurd claims like not enough sun in West Virginia. You serious? What a preposterous argument. Anything to protect their donors. So I got more videos for her in a second, but I want you to know who Joe Manchin is and why we shouldn't accept that he is the best we can have in West Virginia. So here are some of the nominees of in Donald Trump's cabinet and otherwise that Joe Manchin, the so-called Democrat, voted for. Scott Pruitt, in the middle of destroying the EPA now. Rex Tillerson, who was ExxonMobil CEO. Neil Gorsuch, of course, the Supreme Court nominee, who's now on the Supreme Court. The most pro-corporate justice we'll hopefully ever have, but certainly have had until now. James Mattis for defense, John Kelly, Mike Pompeo for CIA, Nikki Haley for UN, Elaine Chao, Jeff Sessions, of course.
Jeff Sessions.
Okay. David Shulkin, Steve Mnuchin, the financier, and swamp developer that he is, Ryan Zicke, Rick Perry, and Ben Carson, the murderers row of idiots. But
you claim you care about the energy sector and you put Rick Perry in charge of it?
Oh, yeah. You put Rick Perry, who could barely rub two brain cells together, as the head of the Department of Energy, and you claim you care about energy. No. You care about the same thing Rick Perry cares about. Rich donors.
Yeah.
So, now, who is Joe Manchin? Some other facts about him. He's an alumnus of ALEC, that's the American Legislative Exchange Council. That is the deeply right-wing group who works for corporations and who oftentimes will print out memos that other legislators will take and just simply submit as bills. So you work for ALEC, that means you work for multinational corporations. You don't work for West Virginians. And there's an article out today about, well, they're like on the other. And yes, Paula Swearengin is going to, it was released earlier today. She's going to run in a primaries backed by Just Democrats, brand new Congress. We will replace you. All these different groups, right? She's the real progressive in the race, the real Democrat in the race. They say, but Joe Manchin has more money. Where do you think he got that money?
Regular people, $27 at a time, I have to imagine.
Yeah, and who do you think he works for? He works for the people that give him that money. By the way, go to PaulaJean2018.com. She's only taking small donations. She's not taking corporate money. She's not taking PAC money. She's not going to sell you out for some corporation who gave her a ton of money. She's not going to work for ALEC. That's not how it works, okay? PaulaJean2018.com. Okay, more on Joe Manchin. He voted to defund Planned Parenthood. And because of the video, then he later changed his mind. I got hilarious pictures on that in a second. I'll come back to that. He wants a new war on drugs because the old war on drugs was not enough. So he's going to add another war on drugs on top of it because of the opioid epidemic. So your idea is more knuckleheaded, not prevention and healthcare, etc., but a new war on drugs, more war. This is the guy who claims to be a Democrat. What part of this is Democratic? And of course, he serves big energy and big pharma. And in fact, on that stuff, his record is disastrous. Pharmaceutical companies like the ones that jacked up the prices on EpiPen, and of course, all the people who tell you that no, if you want jobs in West Virginia, you're going to have to take toxins with it.
Yeah.
And now let me go to those pictures. So here's Joe Manchin, the picture that he took recently, saying, I stand with Planned Parenthood. Now, that's after he switched his vote. In the beginning, he sees the job, that hack job video, and says, okay, that's it, I'm going to cut Planned Parenthood's funding. Then he says, okay, never mind, I switched my mind, and he says, I stand with Planned Parenthood. After that, he takes this picture. don't need Planned Parenthood. Yeah! No, this is after he switched his vote. And that's a pro-life activist there, or anti-choice activist, and he proudly stands with a sign that says, we don't need Planned Parenthood.
And I was born a coal miner's daughter.
granddaughter. My stepdad was in the coal mines. My uncles were in the coal mines.
TYT is unique in a lot of ways.
I'm gonna ask some uncomfortable questions. I feel like I missed out.
So what is going on? If I don't eat, my head's going to explode. As I take my shirt off, just goes, is that your body? Now we move to inappropriate story number 2.
I just never felt guilty about masturbation.
It's amazing. I could take partial credit for opening up your sexuality. I was a kid in the pool with a shirt on. Let's just call it what it is. I was that kid.
Well, you deal with the bitch side of it, right? But you're my boss, so that's what happened.
I think we're more likely to go. They do see it from a frame of the rich and the powerful, and they don't realize it. The last time that happened, we elected Abraham Lincoln. I don't know. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we unfucked the world?
You and I are a disaster.
Don't stereotype all cops. Don't stereotype all anything. Blowing up like Dave Kohler on Twitter. Oh, that's pretty good progress. I didn't know you could leave positive comments. It's a very TYT thing. So do a whole bunch of depressing stuff. So that at the end I can give you a quote. Winning is, in terms of change and positive change, is not just possible, it's inevitable.
Great time to be alive.
Let's burn this mother down. How's that what you're saying? Fuck it, let's go do it. And that's why I keep thanking you guys for being members. Because together, we got their attention. Thanks for tuning in, and as always, stay strong.
Damn it, they failed us. And if you're not angry about that, Michael, and any of you out there, then you're damn wrong. Because you should be angry. Young Turks.
It was genuine. He was bad.
Cenk Uygur, known online as one of the Young Turks, isn't afraid to throw some punches.
3, 2, 1, fade up.
I just remember thinking, what is this guy's name?
Cenk the Turk Uygur.
I think a TV station is this. The whole point is for me to yell and scream and tell you what I think. It's right out of like Wayne's World.
This guy on this little rinky-dink website is speaking truth to power. We've been averaging 600,000 views a day, beating most of the cable shows in America.
We're the largest online news show in the world.
We're celebrating our 1 billionth view.
We're coming.
More politics ahead with Cenk Uygur. He knew that the MSNBC opportunity was an experiment.
And Phil and host beat CNN headline news combined. At some point, they want to give me a show.
Every single year, that comes out of our paycheck. We put it in, and you're saying we were suckers.
When you, as a host, tells someone you're interviewing to shut up, that's going to raise a red flag.
That guy needed a Paul Bless shut up.
If President Obama's doing the wrong thing, I'm not going to tell you that he's doing the right thing so I can, quote, support him. He says to me, you won't believe the meeting that I just had.
The head of MSNBC talked to me.
They want him off the air. Cenk took an incredible risk. And we're supposed to challenge the government. That's the role of the media. The Democrats and the Republicans are here to screw you. And who on the air is saying it?
I wouldn't have done what he did.
That if I'm going to be a talk show host, I'm going to be the biggest talk show host in the country. I don't think anyone else does it better. I don't think anyone's even close. Before you know it, I'll be back on your TV doing an actual show. I guarantee it. All right, back on the Young Turks. I got a couple of quick tweets for you guys. Dr. Chaos MD writes in, but when Trump fired people on The Apprentice, he never hears from them again. So firing Comey will make his mess go away.
Just like with Yates.
Yeah.
They just
I think so little of Trump's intelligence that I think there's some chance he literally thinks that. Okay. Owlboy writes in, what if the new TYT investigative journalism team were to break Donald Trump's downfall?
I hope they do.
You think I'm not dreaming about that?
Unleash the Kraken.
Yeah.
As they do it.
Yeah, well, it's a little tough, but thank you for believing in us. The Savage Red Panda says, Trump discussed firing the guy investigating him about Russia with an attorney general who recused himself from investigations about Russia. Excellent point.
Yeah, I didn't even make that connection.
That's right.
How could he have been involved in that?
Savage Red Panda gets a t-shirt.
That is a good point. That is savage.
Yeah. Mr. Panda, you made that point probably a good 24 hours before the rest of the media will pick it up. So.
Oh, I'm going to be making it tomorrow, and I'm not going to cite him.
So great job, t-shirt for him. And then finally, Admiral Marsden says, "Go, Paula Jean, go." Also, Joe Manchin should just cross over to the other side already, to the Republican side. Yeah, I hear you on that too. All right. Speaking of Republicans, we got a lot of ones in the news. Let's do it, John.
Let's do it. Trump Care is incredibly unpopular, epically so, and that could end up being really bad news for the Republican congressmen who voted for it. So how are they going to respond to that potential threat to their future? Well, it turns out that they're just going to go and lie about what's actually in the bill and try to fool you into thinking that they're not the ones who are responsible for this in the first place. And we have several examples of this, starting with Tom Price, head of Health and Human Services. So one of the problems that people have with this bill the most is the massive cuts to Medicaid that are coming. They're going to throw far more than 10 million people off the program. So that seems like something you'd want to be clear in your position on. And Jake Tapper is going to try to get him to be clear. Let's see if he succeeds.
Making any cuts to Medicaid, but according to the Congressional Budget Office, the health care bill that just passed the House would cut $880 billion over 10 years from Medicaid.
What we're fashioning is a system that would allow the states to tailor their Medicaid program to those specific individuals, thereby saving money, yes, but also making it so that they have a higher level of care, higher quality of care than they currently do.
But the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, looked at the plan that passed the House, although there were some changes to it, and said 14 million people who are on Medicaid will no longer be able to be on Medicaid.
Remember that there are no cuts to the Medicaid program. There are increases in spending. But what we're doing is apportioning it in a way that allows the states greater flexibility to cover their Medicaid and care for their Medicaid population. This is incredibly important. And I know that the media loves to talk about the cuts that the CBO talks about. But again, what the Congressional Budget Office measures is spending as if nothing changes at all, as if the program is doing just fine. Thank you very much.
Are you actually saying that $880 billion in cuts, according to the CBO, however you want to talk about that not being a cut, that's actually not going to result in millions of Americans not getting Medicaid?
Absolutely not.
$880 billion, that's a cut from Medicaid. How is that not a broken promise?
Well, look again, Jake. The winners under Obamacare were the federal government and insurance companies. The winners under the program that we provide and that we believe is the most appropriate will be patients and families and doctors.
Yeah, I gotta say, if you know someone who's currently benefiting from Medicaid, the idea that they could theoretically be thrown off, so a fate that's potentially facing millions of Americans, that little smile on his face throughout that should just make your stomach churn. He's so thrilled at the changes they're making. And also, I mean, look, he said, well, yeah, the $880 billion, the CBO is estimating it against if we didn't pass the bill. Yeah, that's what we're talking about, the effect of your bill. What was that supposed to mean, even?
Yeah. So he's become Baghdad Tom. There are no cuts to Medicaid.
There are no cuts.
Remember Baghdad Bob in the Iraq War? Mm-hmm. There are no American tanks in Baghdad.
Yeah.
We're killing them. They are dropping pencils that are actually bombs. But there are no Americans in Baghdad, as like Americans are rolling right behind them, right? So $800 billion in cuts to Medicaid doesn't matter. I'll just come on TV and lie and say there are none. There are no cuts.
He also says the media loves to talk about this, as the lower third at the bottom says 7 GOP governors voiced concerns about Medicaid cuts. I love that little matchup there. Yeah, look, he said it's going to give the states increased flexibility to meet their Medicaid obligations. Like if I robbed you of every cent you have, it would provide increased flexibility to feed yourself later that day.
He said
that is scary talk.
He said the Medicaid population will be cared for in a better way. So how's that for Orwellian? No. If we cut all of your money, you will be better off for it.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe.
So, look, denying what's actually in the bill, that is certainly one strategy that they've been using, will continue to use. But what if they muddy the waters a little bit? What if they make you think that it's not just a Republican thing? Let's take a look at this. This Congressman Denham, here's a strategy that he took at a town hall.
Can I just clarify, you read the entire bill before you voted on it?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
One congressman we know read the entire bill.
Oh, I don't know if that's true. It was read in committee. It was read a couple of times.
Really?
Yeah. Bipartisan. Both parties working together, yeah.
Okay, Miss.
Important to note, not a single Democrat voted for it.
I think he's got a different definition of bipartisan. Both parties working on it together. Yeah, well, maybe you guys worked on it together, and then they all voted no, which would mean that it was not bipartisan. Remember, this was one of the main lines of attacks that Republicans had against Obamacare. Well, they didn't work with us, and so they didn't reach out to us at all, and they didn't get any Republican votes. Well, you didn't get any Democratic votes. You didn't, and that's not even true that they worked together. They didn't reach out to Democrats at all. They didn't ask their opinion. They didn't make one amendment to try to get any Democratic votes. They didn't even bother trying to get Joe Manchin's vote so far. And he's ready to give it to him, right? So he's like, oh, just give me an opportunity to give it to you. So it's just become totally Orwellian, and they figure it doesn't matter. We've been attacking the press so much, we'll just lie and then tell you that the press is lying.
Exactly.
And then we'll get our own knucklehead guys to vote for us. But that congressman happens to be in a district that voted more for Hillary Clinton than Donald Trump. I think he's in a world of trouble and doesn't even know it.
Yeah. And it gets even a little bit more disgusting than that. First of all, to expand on the Medicaid problem, what exactly they're changing. The AHCA, the Republican bill, Trump Care, doesn't just cut from Medicaid. It turns the remaining funding into a block grant and frees states from federal requirements. This would allow states to cut benefits to children and adults, charge unlimited premiums, deductibles, and co-payments, and deny coverage to eligible individuals. And again, he described it as the previous beneficiaries were the insurance companies. Now it's the people. The people want the states to be able to charge higher deductibles and co-payments and all that, I'm sure. But then you bear in mind some of the other points, like the fact that rape and pregnancy can be considered pre-existing conditions, the way that pre-existing conditions in general can result in you paying far more for your health insurance. We're talking not just twice as much, up to 100 times or more, depending on what conditions you have. So understand that. Understand who's being targeted by this new bill, and then take a look at this ad from the GOP that's trying to get out in front of the backlash that Paul Ryan is going to find when he goes back to his home district.
To cut the deficit and provide $1 trillion of job-creating tax relief. It puts patients and doctors back in charge of health care, eliminating Washington's expensive mandates, empowering states to reduce health care costs, and protecting people with pre-existing conditions. The Republican health plan provides families with more choices, better coverage, and lower premiums. Thank Paul Ryan and House Republicans for keeping their word and fighting for the health care we deserve.
Everybody's so happy the mom is taking the selfie with the kid. I hope the kid wasn't born with some sort of cancer or something. She might find out that she's going to have to pay far more for her health insurance.
So, look, I want you to understand something really, really important. The Republican plan is we're going to give all the money to the rich. In this case, it's, the question of Tom Price, who benefits and who doesn't, right? To be fair, it's not just the rich. The young and the healthy are beneficiaries of this plan. It's true. Their premiums will go down a little bit. God help you if you're old, or if you're sick, you've got a pre-existing condition, you're in a world of hurt, right? If you relied on Medicaid, you're not well off, you're in a world of hurt, okay? But there's one other beneficiary besides the young and the healthy. That is the incredibly wealthy. They're going to get a $756 billion tax cut. Then they're going to turn around and give a very tiny percentage of that to Republican politicians who will run ads like that.
Yeah.
And the plan for Republicans is, it doesn't matter. We pass something that helps our donors and hurts your family, and then we do an ad where we pretend that it helps your family. And we'll fill it with lots of people that are African Americans and old people and et cetera.
and families and kids, and we'll pretend that we're helping them, and we'll put it in giant bold letters how it covers you if you have a pre-existing condition, which is not true. The states actually can cut it. They have that option, right? They can cut that provision. So they think it doesn't matter. We'll just buy TV ads filled with lies with our donor money, and then we'll wind up winning the elections anyway. I think because of the internet, they're in for a rude awakening. But that has been their plan for a long, long time. That's what their plan is right now.
I think in this case, I would say even without the internet, it's a stupid strategy that's going to fail. Because the thing is, you can pull a lot of stuff over people in America, theoretically. But when it comes to their health care, people know how much they pay for their deductible. They know what their copayment is. They understand if they have health insurance at all. If it gets taken away from them, if their wife was thrown off for health insurance, you can't fool them with an ad into thinking that didn't just happen.
I know.
If their family member dies as a result of this, I think it's going to be abundantly clear if this goes into effect exactly what effect it has, and I don't think you can. I don't think you can add it away.
No, I know, but by the time that it goes into effect and the states start to take away things like covering pre-existing conditions, etc., it's going to be 3 years later, and they're going to think, I already won a couple of elections by tricking you before you found out how badly I pulverized your health care.
Yeah.
Ha ha! Too late. I already suckered you, right? So that's their MO, and they've done it for a long time here. So the question is, will you buy into it before you realize the actual real-life effects? Because at some point, there is a reality.
Yeah.
And so, finally, Mick Mulvaney, who's a head of Office of Management and Budget for Donald Trump, had another great line. And he says that people are going to get the affordability they deserve. In other words, if you're one of our donors, you're going to get good affordability. If you're not, you're going to get the affordability you deserve. See, he couldn't quite bring himself to lie like the rest of them and say, no, it's going to be cheaper for everybody, because he knows that ain't true. So instead, he says it in that way that I think accidentally rubs it in your face.
He basically said you'll get what you deserve from his point of view.
Yes.
For once they're being honest.
Yep. All right, we've got to take a quick break.
Yep.
When we come back, we've got more for you guys on an amazing interview, actually. I want you guys to see this. We'll be right back.
Today is truly a historic day with the Supreme Court decision that makes same-sex marriage legal nationwide.
So this is one of those days in American history. It doesn't come along that often, where we have expanded the circle of liberty.
Look, all we try to do on this show, okay, is to give you perspectives, right? So you can get a better understanding.
We need to change our mentality and understand why these people are trying to leave their own countries and everything that they've known, everything that they've built.
Yeah.
It's not to come here and harm you.
Anytime you force someone, like they did in Arizona, to carry their paperwork, it's to remind them every day that they do not belong in your society.
Now that is the sound of fascism beginning here in America.
Doesn't that scare you? Don't you see history repeating itself? That xenophobia and faux populism to get people worked up to attack outsiders.
That is violent rhetoric, and your violent rhetoric translates to violent actions. If you don't get that, well, you're either in denial or you know it's true and you just don't want to admit it.
What's the message we're sending to the rest of the world? I mean, give us your poor, you're tired, and we will greatly mistreat them under horrible conditions where some of them will die. That's not what the Statue of Liberty says. If you asked me to come up with something insulting to Latinos, I couldn't have done anything like this. I wouldn't have thought to insult the grandkids. Yeah. 2/3 of the people shot when they're unarmed were blacks and Latinos. That means they were wrong. They're like, who cares? Shoot them, shoot them, shoot them, shoot them.
Look, my dad was born in Syria. My dad could have stayed in Syria, and he could have been a victim of all this, right? And the thought of the United States saying no to Syrian victims, I don't know. It makes me incredibly emotional and incredibly angry, because I think it goes against what this country's about.
The fighters, the warriors, the ones who go the extra mile, in this case literally, to provide for their family and to look for that American dream. And they shouldn't be forced to live in an American nightmare.
you have in common with your daughter?
Well, I was going to say sex, but I can't relate that. You said I had small hands. They're not small. I never heard that one before.
I have decided that I'm going to get ripped. Okay?
What?
Okay?
Like, physically?
Yeah. Okay. What, you don't believe me?
I 100% don't believe you.
I will get so ripped, here's my prediction, that someone at TYT will say, Cenk, you've got to stop working out.
Wait, we're tired of you winning.
So you don't believe me?
Cenk, you don't have time to, like, do your daily duties for the main show.
You don't have time for your daily duties. Because what you guys don't know is how great my muscles already are.
It's absolutely possible. But you can't have Leah run to the food truck to get you, like, 2 different types of grilled cheeses with, like, tater tots for lunch. Like, you can't have that anymore.
Let's see what happens.
You also have to go to the gym regularly.
Let's see what happens. All I'm saying is, let's see what happens. Have I ever been wrong about a prediction? Almost never. All right, back on the Young Turks. Marie Jacobson writes in, according to the GOP, pregnancy is a pre-existing condition, so from the moment you're born a girl, you're screwed. Okay, Chasman writes in, Trump equals consistent in-our-face corruption. So if you hadn't heard the news yet, although you probably have, and certainly you did if you were listening to or watching earlier in the show, James Comey has been fired, and that means Donald Trump is in a world of trouble. You don't fire James Comey in a panic unless he's got something on you. So we're doing a poll. Is Donald Trump done? Okay, that's pretty strong. It's going to be up soon. That's TYTnetwork.com/Trump. Yesterday's poll is on fire. Should Hillary Clinton join the resistance or go back into the woods? Over 62,000 votes when in less than 24 hours. Probably much higher than that now. TYTnetwork.com/Hillary. If there's any more updates on Comey, we'll let you know. One of our viewers in the last segment made a great point that how could Spicer said the Attorney General and the Deputy Attorney General made this decision. How could the Attorney General who recused himself from any dealings with Russia make a decision to fire James Comey? Almost certainly having to do with the Russian investigation.
And after Chaffetz and Sessions, is there anyone who was around at the beginning investigating or tasked with investigating who's still there?
Mm-hmm.
They're just being eliminated one after the other. Some willingly, some unwillingly.
I'll probably do a story on this tomorrow, and we have a huge announcement of our own tomorrow as well. A big surprise at the top of the show. Don't miss it, 6 p.m. Eastern. But I'll probably do a story about Bernie, too. I've now decided that, I'll spoil that part of it for you guys, that the natural candidate for 2020 is Bernie Sanders. Okay. Yeah, I know it's a revolutionary thought, but it is revolutionary, certainly in Washington. And I think that has a world of ramifications. And so, anyway, I was calling him number 46 privately off the air here.
Mm-hmm.
I might have to call him number 47 now. Oh. Hence, warm up that number 46 hat. Okay.
Yeah, he was on that list. I think it was from The Hill, the 43 people who already might be running against Trump the next go-around. He was one of the first.
Bernie, okay.
See, he'll accept it.
We'll talk more about that tomorrow. All right, what's next?
Okay. Both Democrats and Republicans are facing renewed opposition at town halls. People getting more engaged in politics and getting in their face, asking them why they're voting the way they are, all of that. And at least on the Republican side, they've come up with this interesting tactic to fight it, where they have started checking the IDs and addresses of everyone to be allowed into the town hall to make sure that only their constituents are able to be there, because they're really only focused on their district. Now, we've got Representative Ron Blum in Iowa being interviewed by Josh Scheinblum, who wants to see how far he's willing to actually take that philosophy. And you're going to see the reception he got in this clip.
Well, I think some would make the case that you represent all Iowans. The decisions that you make impact all Iowans. So shouldn't all Iowans have a voice at the table, or at least have the option to?
I don't represent all Iowans. I represent the first district of Iowa. That'd be like saying, shouldn't I be able to, even though I live in Dubuque, go vote in Iowa City during the election because I'd like to vote in that district instead?
Would you still take donations from a Republican in Iowa City? We haven't even.
This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous.
He's going to sit here and just badger me. We just asked why you wanted to do the interview. That was it. Congressman, come on. Take a seat. Congressman, I insist. Let's talk about
donations.
Wow. Okay, that was the most benign question I've ever heard in my life.
Mine.
Yeah, and it was like the first question. So, okay, so you're blocking people that are not in your district from your town halls. Okay, we get it. And he didn't challenge him. He didn't say it was the wrong thing to do. He says, so if you're worried about people that are not in your district affecting things that are in your district, and he didn't say, would you take money from the Koch brothers or George Soros and imply anything evil. He just said, would you take money from a Republican?
Republican.
In Iowa City, that is not in your district. How dare you, you outrageous! And storms out. Like, what? I mean, how guilty are you? Why don't you just put up a giant wave a red flag going, I work for my donors, don't ask me any questions about that! Okay?
Especially, this is the party that believes that money is speech. You literally won't let them speak at the town hall, but you'll let them influence it with gigantic sums of money. It's the best hall question. Josh Scheinblum did a great job there, said that it's just a natural extension of his philosophy that he supposedly believes in, but of course it's not about that. It's simply about limiting any sort of strike back, blowback from what Blum is off in Congress doing.
By the way, I will take that deal in a second. If you say nobody's allowed to come to town halls that don't live in your district, but you're also not allowed to take money from outside your district, deal. We'll make that deal today. By the way, I want to give Republicans credit here. It's actually in some of the states that Wolfpack works in to get money out of politics, that is a Republican proposal. Mm-hmm. So I believe it's in New Hampshire where the Republicans proposed, yeah, we can take money and we think money is speech. I don't agree with that part. He said, but you can only take money from inside your own district, so you represent your district. Yeah. Well, that's a super interesting idea, and we should discuss that. But that very idea offends that particular Republican so much that he's like, oh my God, I am shocked and chagrined.
Yeah.
Right?
It doesn't get talked about enough. I understand, okay, maybe theoretically someone lived there, moved away, still wants to donate to candidates or whatever. But the idea that a corporation from another state should be able to give money for your congressional race, for a regular person, you'd have to say, what possible sense does that make? What does halfway across the country, some corporation wants to elect my congressman? That doesn't make any sense.
So he won't let other citizens of Iowa talk to him in a town hall, but he'll let ExxonMobil talk to him through millions of dollars that they can give in donations. He'll let the Koch brothers keep on talking to him over and over and over again with the millions of dollars they can give in donations. So, finally, if you're wondering what in the world was going on with the kids in the background there, why were they in the middle of this random interview with a congressman in Iowa? That's because he brought them in. And the reporter was like, wait, what are the kids doing here? And he's like, oh, so you think all Republicans are evil? The reporter's like, what are you talking about? I just don't know what these kids have to do with this interview.
Yeah, and I just want to make sure that they all live in your district.
So he was just trying to do propaganda. Yeah. What I'm a tiny bit worried about is KCRG TV9 here. He's their chief investigative reporter, Josh Scheinblum. Whatever you do, don't panic
Don't view this as a bad thing that, oh my God, you lost access to a politician, okay? Your reporter here did a wonderful job. It was a great question, perfect question, and him trying to do propaganda with the kids and then walking out is his problem, not your problem. It's a wonderful piece of journalism. You should reward that and not punish it.
That interview is why you had access in the first place, to do exactly that.
That's right. And you know what you did? You illuminated your viewers, and now they, I think, have a much better sense of who Representative Rod Bloom is. Okay? He's the guy that if you ask him about his donors that finances campaigns, gets awfully touchy, because those are the guys he actually works for. All right, we got to take a break here. So much more. We'll give you any updates on James Comey's firing by Donald Trump in the next hour. And then, of course, we've got a lot more coming up for you guys as well, including more madness at the airlines. Oh, no. This airline, you might be able to guess. All right, we'll be right back.
Establishment media, corporate media, as I like to say, it's really not journalism. It's kind of become this infotainment, substanceless drivel, and horse race obsession. They all live in this echo chamber, in this bubble, because they have no idea what actual people are dealing with. Most people have their jobs sent offshore, or are now working free jobs, are struggling just to afford health care. I mean, in going across the country and reporting, I'm talking to people who have to decide between, can I take my medication this week or get groceries? They have no clue, because they're more interested in, what Trump tweeted, or the debt ceiling showdown, and, all this stuff that they try to prop up in terms of almost a movie script, sensational and protagonist and conflict and all this. And the victims of that are actual people. I think that's why people are responding to us, because I'm not out covering the sexy story. My biggest passions is kind of showing that the folks in the work that are part of the working poor now, formerly middle class, these are not the takers. There's actually been a systematic con job, and they've been conned. We've all been conned by what I call the corporate media military industrial complex. Kind of long-winded, but there's been an active cabal, so to speak, of corporations, lobbyists, banks, politicians, and the media to essentially concentrate power into one vacuum and leave people in Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio, Pennsylvania. It's not just the Rust Belt. I mean, all over the country, kind of scrapping for the crumbs. So what do we do? I think, honestly, people say, oh, I couldn't do it without you. I always thought those celebrities were bullshit artists. But we can't do it without you. I mean, it took years for them just to hire me, because they didn't have the funds to hire a reporter. Now they've hired two more and possibly more on the way. So the first thing you can do is, if you like me, if you like what you're doing, let's create more. The Go campaign is a great way. Even if you only can give $10, $20, it all makes a big difference. So if you can contribute, and that's not just to hire more reporters, it takes an army, producers, editors, researchers, cameraman, all that. So the Go campaign, as well as become a member.
He referred to my hands. If they're small, something else must be small. I guarantee you there's no problem. I guarantee you. You said I had small hands. They're not small. I never heard that one before.
Because of the FBI.
Like he loved that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
He does not care about Hillary Clinton. That is the most ridiculous reason that I've ever heard in my entire life.
Maybe the worst excuse I've ever heard in politics. This beats John Danforth leaving the United Nations because he said his wife hurt her ankle. He couldn't stand the Bush administration. He's like, oh, my wife twisted her ankle. I gotta go. So this is one is even worse. So they say, well, because of the improprieties and how he handled the private email server controversy with Hillary Clinton and doing the press conference and then making the announcements, of course, right before the election, that helped Donald Trump become president. Now apparently Donald Trump's so angry about it. Oh, come on! Okay, and remember, they knew all of that when they decided to keep James Comey on as the head of the FBI earlier. It's not like Donald Trump and his entire team was not aware of what James Comey had done with the private email server controversy regarding Hillary Clinton before. They were perfectly aware of it. And then you're going to tell me with no replacement, all of a sudden, in the middle of the day, in a panic, you fire James Comey, not because of the Russian investigation he has on you, but because you realize months and months later, oh, golly gee, what he did to Hillary Clinton.
Really broke his heart to see Hillary Clinton hurt like that. What did Comey expect, though? right? I mean, Trump now has a very obvious pattern of doing away with anyone who has the audacity to challenge him in any way, shape, or form. He is the type of guy who needs to have his ego stroked, who needs constant validation, who needs to feel good about himself. And so anyone who stands in his way, or anyone who attacks his image, who happens to be employed by the federal government, has their days numbered. It's
That's
that
right.
easy.
So, but at the same time, firing James Comey is telling everyone in the world the Russian investigation is very real. There's a ton of evidence, and Comey was about to do something to reveal that evidence, so I had to fire him in a panic. And you don't put that message out unless James Comey had a lot of evidence and was about to do something. So we're doing a poll already on day one. TYTnetwork.com/Trump. Is Donald Trump done? And by the way, I vote yes. This is a historic firing. This is like the Saturday Night Massacre that Richard Nixon did when he fired everybody about Watergate. And that didn't help. That only wound up exacerbating the situation. And here's one of the things I've maintained all along. And people think I'm doing it for partisan reasons or something. No. I'm here to report the news to you. Donald Trump is one of the dumbest people we have ever seen in public life. He didn't know healthcare was going to be complicated. He didn't know North Korea was going to be complicated. In the middle of an international conflict with North Korea, he had no idea who the leader of North Korea was. He is monstrously stupid. You think a guy that stupid can cover up a crime where he had a financial deal with the Russians? He can't cover that up. Anyone who investigates it will find it. And apparently Comey found it. Now, when you fire him, you think that makes it go away? How many other people at the FBI know about it? So what are you going to do? You're going to fire them all? You're going to fire them one by one and nobody's going to leak and nobody's going to tell you anything? I guarantee you that they replaced James Comey with an unbelievable hack. Okay? He might replace him with Donald Trump Jr. because he's in a world of hurt. So he needs someone he can absolutely trust to be a crook. Maybe Chris Christie. But either way, whoever he hires is going to be an absolute lackey. But it ain't going to help. When you fire a guy who says in public, in Congress, I'm investigating you for your links to Russia, and then you pretend you did it to help your former political opponent who you let chance of lock her up to? Your audience was chanting, lock her up, and now you think you're protecting her honor? That's your excuse for firing James Comey? No. Again, not that bright. Didn't bother to come up with an excuse that was even tenable. In fact, they must have done it in such a hurry that they're like, look, we don't have 5 minutes to come up with a decent excuse. Write the letter. The guy's got the handcuffs in his hand. He's coming down the hall. Fire him right now. So that's the kind of situation we're in right now. That is amazing news.
Well, I'm curious to see what kind of information Comey has, because it's going to come out one way or the other. You can go ahead and fire him. You can go ahead and, retaliate against him. But the truth will come out. Whether or not there are ties to Russia, obviously, due to his actions, it seems like there are. You're not going to be able to hide that message. You're not going to be able to bury it, and that's what he's trying to do.
Whew. Breaking news in the middle of the show. Some serious stuff going on here. That's awesome. All right, now let's give you the rest of the news from today.
All right. By now, you've probably seen viral videos showing people at the airport in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, outraged and engaging in some, physical activity with one another and cops after Spirit Airlines canceled a bunch of their flights. Now, airline companies cancel a bunch of flights all the time. It's super frustrating. Why did people lose their minds? Well, chaos broke out at the Florida airport on Monday after multiple Spirit flights were canceled, leading to long lines, irate customers, and altercations, okay? So we have a video showing a little bit of what the scene is like and what caused the flight cancellations, and then I'll give you an update on the story. Take a look.
The chaos erupting inside Fort Lauderdale's airport spilled into the overnight as passengers were stranded. It got so bad, Spirit Airlines called in police, officers taking several people into custody. The mayhem starting after 11 cancellations and 26 delayed flights. And the airline, with the worst customer service and on-time record, blames some of its own pilots. Spirit claiming its ongoing labor negotiations with the Airline Pilots Association, saying in a statement to ABC News, This is a result of unlawful labor activity by some Spirit pilots designed to disrupt operations for our customers.
So Spirit Airlines has filed a suit against the pilots here, the Airline Pilots Association to be specific, and a judge has literally just ruled that the pilots who are employed by the airline must go back to work.
There is, man, corporations have such a headlock on the judiciary and every part of our government.
Right.
They're even ruling in favor of Spirit Airlines.
And no one really rules in favor of Spirit Airlines.
Okay, so this was a recipe for disaster. You combine Spirit Airlines with Florida, and of course you're going to have an absolute mess on your hands. The two things that are bound to lead to great, great frustration. Okay, if you don't know, if you haven't taken Spirit, it's a disaster. It makes United look like a classy airline.
Right. Well, the whole point of Spirit Airlines is we're going to give you the absolute lowest price, but it will be a bare bones flight, okay? You're not going to be able to recline your seat. We're going to pack you in like sardines. There are no comforts associated with the flight. And I know that with most flights, there aren't much comforts associated if you are not willing to pay more than economy for your ticket. But no, Spirit takes it to the next level. And then if you want even a little bit of comfort, they'll charge you for it.
Yeah, and it's more bare knuckle in this case than bare bones. And I was just on a Spirit flight just last week, and they increased the pain so that they can increase the amount of things that they can charge you for. So they not only charge you for checking your bag, so everybody's gotten used to that. They sometimes charge you for carry-ons. They charge you for every conceivable thing that they possibly can charge you for. I'm surprised they don't charge you for oxygen. And there's no service, like you can't check in at one of those kiosks. You got to sit through the lines. They tell you got to come 2 hours early because you will be on a massive line. I mean, every inconvenience there is, right? And I was, like I said, just last week on a Spirit airline. And everybody in line looked like they were on hard times, dude. Okay, including me. And it was a late night flight from Vegas to Baltimore. They were on hard times going to harder times. And you take those guys who are all on edge, right? You put them down in Florida, and then you put them on a Spirit airline flight, and then you cancel the flight. Of course they're going to have fights. Of course.
Exactly.
It's like they did it just for World Star.
It's not, that's funny, but it's not just about Spirit Airlines. I think that this is a symptom of increased frustration and anger. It's been pent up, and we continue to suppress it more and more every single time we travel, and people have finally had enough. I think that this goes way further than Spirit Airlines. We're seeing more and more of these stories where people are fighting back against these airline companies because they feel like, it's one of the most expensive things that you can pay for in this country, in terms of travel. And you get treated like crap, right? The flight gets delayed, and instead of feeling as though they owe you something, like an apology, they treat you like you owe them something.
Oh, no. And to be fair to the folks who work at Spirit Airlines, they're on their last rope, too. I mean, because everybody they deal with is pissed because Spirit wound up pissing them off in one way or another. And they've taken so much abuse that by the time you're talking to somebody who works at Spirit, they're ready to fight. Like, they all got a look on their face like, what now? What now? No, I'm charging you for that. What are you going to do about it, okay? Say one more thing, I'm going to charge you per word. Right? So, I mean, that thing is toxic. And so this is bound to happen. And you're right, Anna. We're all at our breaking point.
Right. I mean, Jenk and I talked about travel yesterday. I believe during the post-game show for our members, you should join tytnetwork.com/join. But anyway, during the discussion, I mentioned something about how I'm done with travel, right? And it sucks because for work, oftentimes you have to do it. You have no choice. But in terms of putting myself through situations like that for vacation, it's just not worth it anymore. It's that unbearable.
Yeah. And I just had to go to 5 cities in 10 days, and it wasn't easy, man. And sometimes, especially when a flight that's really late gets canceled, it is brutal. Absolutely brutal. So, anyway, good luck to everybody. Hope that the authorities let everybody go, man.
Yeah.
You got to understand, there's got to be a Spirit defense. Like, to be fair, Your Honor, I was on Spirit Airlines. Case dismissed.
All right.
By the way, some jackass Republican online or right-winger online the other day claimed that I was making a $10 million salary, right?
Obviously.
Ain't nobody going on Spirit Airlines making $10 million.
Also, have you not seen Jake's suits on the show? I mean, how do you buy that he makes $10 million? But anyway. All right, moving on to some environmental news. The Environmental Protection Agency has removed half of its scientific board. These are individuals who are academics, who are trained scientists, who do very important work pertaining to our drinking water and our environment. And the government has decided that they're not going to renew the contracts of these individuals because they'd rather replace them with industry types. Now, Scott Pruitt, the EPA administrator, has chosen not to renew the terms of 9 of the 18-member board of scientific counselors, which advises the EPA on the quality and accuracy of the science it produces. The group, largely made up of academics, is set to be replaced by representatives from industries that the EPA regulates. So, I mean, you know, corporations just didn't have enough of a say here in the United States, so why not give them government jobs so they can do things that suit their best interests as opposed to the best interests of the American people. So the committee has been eviscerated according to the chair of the EPA. I'm sorry, the chair of the board. The committee has been eviscerated. We assumed these people would be renewed, and there was no reason or indication they wouldn't be. These people aren't Obama appointees. They are scientific appointees. To have a political decision to get rid of them was a shock. I would disagree. I don't think it's a shock. This is something that I could totally expect in Trump's administration. And so, yeah, they are looking out for the best interests of these corporations. They don't care about the environment. They don't care about your drinking water. They don't care about, you know, chemical safety and all these other things that these academics have been focusing on.
Yeah, you know, I feel bad for them because they probably naively thought, like, no, but they're not going to just take scientists and fire them and replace them with political hacks who just work for the companies that we're supposed to actually check on. So, like, regulators are kind of like cops, right? They want to make sure you're not breaking the law, you're not hurting people by putting dangerous stuff in the water or the air, etc. So, they were surprised to find out that they would fire the cops and hire the robbers. But that's the whole point of the Trump administration. Scott Pruitt sued the EPA 13 times. Scott Pruitt talked about how he wanted to destroy the EPA, and they put him in charge of the EPA.
One of the reasons why he sued the EPA was because he disagreed with regulations pertaining to pesticides. The EPA had banned a specific type of pesticide because it was found to be dangerous, not only to the environment, but also to humans. And Scott Pruitt was like, no, don't agree. I'm going to go ahead and sue them. But who are you, Scott Pruitt? Are you a scientist? You know, are you an expert or are you a political hack? And that's exactly what he is.
Well, in fact, he's taken money from those same corporations. I know that comes as a huge shock to you guys. And when he was the Attorney General of Oklahoma, he would sometimes copy and paste stuff that lobbyists had sent him and then sue the EPA with their words. Okay?
That's right.
That's who he works for. And by the way, since he's been the head of the EPA, that same pesticide, he removed the ban on it, even though the scientists at the EPA said that it harms children and farm workers.
Who cares about them?
But literally, because and a spokesman for the agency, and hence Scott Pruitt, said the administrator, that's Pruitt, believes we should have people on this board, the scientific board, who understands the impact of regulations on the regulated community. They don't mean your community. They don't mean your families and where you live. They mean the regulated community means the businesses who are being regulated. So they say, well, we need their representatives to unregulate them. What are they, Ferengi? Anyway, so, no. They paint it like, oh, these poor guys have no representation. They have no voice. No, they have giant lobbyists. Those corporations are
disproportionate representation. They have more representation than the average American does, and they will continue to do so.
They already have all these lobbyists. They already pressure the EPA. They already make their case to the EPA and to the politicians nonstop. It's not like, oh, I never heard of them. Oh, the company that makes pesticides, so they care about this issue? Huh. Well, I wonder why they didn't bring it up. No, they brought it up to the tune of millions of dollars constantly. So the opposite of corporate hacks who are there to unregulate these businesses, no matter how dangerous the products, are not real scientists. The opposite of those guys, if at all, and this is totally unfair, but are environmental activists. Scientists are not on that spectrum. And they're the ones who are supposed to have this job. This job is, hey, let's determine, is the pesticide dangerous or is it not? Because, by the way, we might need pesticides. We might need to kill the bugs on the things. And if they're safe, good, that helps, and et cetera. But if they're not safe, we don't want the kids and the farm workers to die or to get sick, right? So if a Democrat came in and said, I don't want any scientists, I'm only going to put environmental activists in, people would lose it. They'd be like, whoa, my God, how dare you? You're just turning over the EPA to Greenpeace. By the way, again, it's monumentally unfair because Greenpeace and environmental activists believe in science.
Right.
And they don't have a financial motive like the guys who are going to come on this board that actually is a conflict of interest. They want to serve the people who pay them and not the people who they're supposed to protect. It's the Environmental Protection Agency. They're supposed to protect the environment, and they're going to do the exact opposite. This is exactly what Donald Trump gets you.
All right, we got to take a quick break, but we do have some more environmental news. In fact, a protest regarding environmental issues that I think is awesome. I want to give you the details on that and more, so stick around.
What date are we recording this?
Oh my God, it's 4:20. We'll be right back. Please.
A few minutes later.
Funny Young Turks. Let me read tweets, and then I have another James Comey update. Game Over writes in, number 45 fires Comey because he didn't lock her up. Makes sense if you're a tiny-handed, soon-to-be-impeached orange buffoon. Brandon Adams says about the Spirit Airlines story, there's a slogan. Their slogan should be, "Where's your spirit?" And Kat says, "Spirit is a greyhound of the sky." I shouldn't read this, but I will. I shouldn't, but I will. Now, Gabby Marita writes, and Trump's got about the same temperament as the guy who farts in an elevator and then points the blame at some random kid. About right. Okay, so now another update on Comey, okay? So, James Comey fired as the head of the FBI. He was investigating Trump's connections with Russia, stated that publicly, and apparently he was fired while in visiting the bureau in Los Angeles for the FBI. He was taken completely by surprise by it. As we reported earlier in this breaking news story, the firing seems to be in a panic, so they put out a press statement now where senior White House and Justice Department officials are saying that no, they've been working on building a case against James Comey for a whole week. What? You're going to fire the head of your FBI and you only spent a week, even less than a week, because they said last week we were working on it. That doesn't even mean a whole week. You were working on it for less than a week? If you were going to remove the head of your FBI, wouldn't you have a replacement? They don't have a replacement. Wouldn't you work on it for a little bit longer than a week? Wouldn't you come up with a little bit better excuse than I fired her because of I fired him because of what he did to Hillary Clinton. Okay, we reported this earlier as well. Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein says he couldn't defend how James Comey handled the Hillary Clinton investigation. He, among the things that he said is that for him to release derogatory information about her in that press conference was unacceptable. Are you kidding me? Your whole campaign was about derogatory.
And Greenpeace activists are also protesting Credit Suisse. And so another really good point that these protesters made is, look, if you go protest the pipeline itself, well, that's their bread and butter, and they're not going to want to change their position on where they make all their money. But for the banks, these pipeline investments are actually a small part of their business. So it's easier to move them on this issue. So I think that that's exactly right. And the banks are where the money is. So really interesting beginning. I think that these protests are going to take on a life of its own. I think it's going to get much, much larger. So if the other side thinks that this is no big deal, well, what you just saw was the tip of the iceberg. My suggestion is to not run into that iceberg. But people have ignored that suggestion before.
Right. We want to show the banks that it's a risky investment. So just avoid it.
Yeah, no point in it. All right, what's next?
All right. Prior to the House voting on the replacement for the Affordable Care Act, Jimmy Kimmel shared an emotional story regarding his newborn son, Billy, and his heart condition. During that story, he talked about the importance of accessible health care and how every single American deserves to get the medical care that they need, regardless of what their socioeconomic status is. Well, that seems like an uncontroversial stance, especially when you put yourself in a vulnerable position and you talk about your own family and your own struggles. Well, of course, conservatives were angry about it. Newt Gingrich was one of them. So Newt Gingrich goes in the media and starts tearing Jimmy Kimmel apart. And Jimmy Kimmel responds to it. And I want to give you a little bit of his response, okay? He says, I know this is going to shock you. There were also some not so nice things that people said online about me, including members of the media. I would like to apologize for saying that children in America should have health care. It was insensitive. It was offensive. And I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me. So obviously he's being sarcastic there. I would like to apologize. I'm sorry. Let's move on to the next graphic. He says, there are some very sick and sad people out there. Here's one of them. His name is Newt Gingrich. And then he proceeds to tear Newt Gingrich apart, which we'll get to in just a second. But I like that he's coming out strong on this issue.
Yeah. You would think that it's not that controversial. I mean, like when somebody says, hey, my baby has a heart condition, and I'm empathizing with other people. Now, I happen to have money, and so, and I've got insurance, thank God, and we're taking care of it. But my God, what if you didn't have insurance? And to the point about Newt Gingrich, it's not, you can't just show up in the emergency room, and you're done with it. No, you got to go and get treatment for it over and over and over again. If you don't have insurance,
my God, what would happen to your baby? That is such a fair question. And they're like, how dare you politicize it? Now,
but it's a political issue. It's a political issue. Healthcare in America is a political issue. He's in a very privileged position. And oftentimes, people who are in a privileged position in this country refuse to have any empathy or compassion for those who aren't privileged. And I give Jimmy Kimmel a world of credit for putting himself in the middle of what is a divisive topic, which shouldn't be, and sharing the truth with his audience, right? I give him a lot of credit for that. And for Newt Gingrich to come out and make arguments about, well, you know, you can go to the emergency room and you get the care you need. No one's going to be turned away. Yeah, but if you have a heart condition, it's not about, you know, going to the emergency room once, which, by the way, is going to be extremely costly and will probably put you through bankruptcy. But it's also about treatment. It's about preventative care. We have terrible preventative care, or at least access to preventative care in this country. These are all issues that every American, regardless of their political ideology, is concerned about. And for Newt Gingrich to go out there and attack Jimmy Kimmel for putting himself in a vulnerable position and sharing the truth, it's unconscionable, okay? He does not, unconscionable. He does not care at all about the American people. He is just, I don't know.
So Kimmel pointed out, hey, when your baby has a heart defect, not only do you need the surgery, but we've had to go to the doctor since then dozens of times.
Yeah.
So when you say, oh, it's a big deal, let's go to the emergency room, you're basically saying, I don't care about your kids.
That's so pro-life of you, by the way, Newt Gingrich, right? You're so pro-life that you would rather have someone struggle without any health insurance and wait until a condition gets so bad that they have to go to the emergency room.
And there's liars on every count, right? So they say, don't politicize any issue like this, but the minute it's an issue that they like, they politicize it immediately. If there's any kind of terrorist strike, they're like, let's invade, let's bomb, we knew it, we need to profile people, we need to do this. Wait, what happened to not politicizing things? They jump to politicize anything that they think is vaguely helpful to them, right? And then they're like, oh, a celebrity like Jimmy Kimmel getting involved. Yeah, but when Ted Nugent gets involved, you guys love it. When Kid Rock gets involved, you're like, yes, Kid Rock in the White House, we have a celebrity on our side, right? So you're total giant hypocrites. And then one of the other reasons they get so mad at Kimmel is because he's rich. And they're like, oh, hypocrite, you're rich. No, there's nothing hypocritical about that. It's called empathy. That despite the fact that he's rich and can afford it, he still cares about you if you can't afford it. That is not hypocrisy. I don't think you understand the word. That's actually being a decent human being. And that really gets under their skin because they're like, why isn't he mercilessly greedy like the rest of us? Why doesn't he want to crush everyone that isn't already privileged? Like what they said about FDR, a traitor to his class.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think every time it comes to a political issue, conservatives cry and moan about certain things that Democrats do. Democrats will correct their behavior, and then Republicans turn around. As soon as they have a little bit of power, they do it 10 times more. Like Trump with his executive orders. Look, all of these criticisms that conservatives throw out there are meant to intimidate people from being politically active, from speaking out, from being truthful about what's really going on. And we can't let that happen. I'm tired of Democrats being weak, and I'm really proud of Jimmy Kimmel for not stepping down. I'm really proud of him for bringing the issue up again and attacking Newt Gingrich the way he did, because that's what Newt Gingrich deserves.
And finally, his sarcasm was perfect, because what was he supposed to do? Was he supposed to come out and apologize for pointing out that his baby has a heart defect and needed all this health care, and that if you don't have insurance, that he wouldn't survive, right? Like, is he supposed to apologize for those facts? Like, is he supposed to make up facts? Is he then supposed to lie and go, yeah, you know what? Ooh, my bad. I didn't mean to get into the middle of a political scuffle here. You know, maybe babies should die so that rich people can get $756 billion tax cut. Ooh, either or. I don't know. I don't want to get in the middle of it.
So frustrating. All right, let's take one more break and just come right back. More stuff. You're going to like it. I guarantee it.
Go. Back on the Young Turks, John Blackman writes in, Comey must kind of love this. I've never seen an unelected public official who craves the limelight more. Can't wait for Thursday. Edward writes in, do you think Pence will pardon Trump? That'll be our next poll. Okay, good question. So in the postgame today, we're going to have discussion of my awkward interactions in Washington with Brian Kilmeade and Greta Van Susteren, tytnetwork.com/join. You also get the whole 2-hour show ad-free. And tomorrow, don't forget, massive announcement, okay? Now, it was supposed to be earth-shaking, and it is, although today the earth got shook a little bit. So it's announcement week on the Young Turks. Today we announced the first Senate candidate for the Just Democrats, Paula Swearengin. PaulaJean2018.com. Go help her run against Joe Manchin in West Virginia. Tomorrow at the top of the show, a massive, massive announcement, and we'll do that. And okay, more stories. Go.
All right, let's do it. Students at a Colorado high school were criticized after they put a photo of Donald Trump on a piñata and then proceeded to hit the piñata, which you're supposed to do. Now, there was a Spanish teacher involved who apparently allowed them to do it. He is now on administrative leave as administrators look into the incident and decide whether or not there was any wrongdoing. However, update to the story is that this particular school, Roosevelt High School in Johnstown, Colorado, had to cancel classes because of threats that they received after this whole story broke, okay? So, look, these kids do the piñata thing. They're kids, and maybe they shouldn't have done it, whatever. But there's an interesting conversation taking place in the country about freedom of speech.
I thought you were going to say piñatas.
No. But
the country's a buzz about piñatas.
Although piñatas are always fun. But think about it for a second, okay? These kids do what they do, and everyone's up in arms to the point where someone online threatens them, and apparently the threat is credible enough that they have to cancel classes for a full day, right? What happened to conservatives not being snowflakes? You're that offended by a piñata that has Trump's face on it? Like, think about that for a second. And what happened to free speech? You could argue that this is a form of political speech on a publicly funded campus, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Free speech for me, not so much for you.
Right. Where's Ann Coulter? I'm sure she's outraged about this.
Yeah, I mean, I hope you guys aren't offended. Right. Okay, now on to the essence of the story. Look, I don't think that the question is that simple as to if the teacher actually is the one that led it and is the one that put the picture on, etc. When those are facts we're not really sure of at all at this point, based on the reporting in Colorado. Should they suspend them, etc., right? Because you always have to think about shoe on the other foot, right? So if there was a teacher that put Obama's face somewhere and encouraged the kids to hit it, shooting practice, I hope they're not doing that in high school, right? But, or a piñata, etc., I'm sure that we'd be pretty pissed about it, and we wouldn't want our kids being taught in a place where they're beating Obama's face on a piñata.
Right. Look, and I think context matters, right? So if you're talking about an adult who's encouraging that kind of activity or that behavior, I get it. It's not right, okay, regardless of who the president is. But also at the same time, I just find it so interesting. Look, if someone had done that with Obama's image or Bernie Sanders' image, for that matter, I wouldn't feel compelled to send death threats, right? I wouldn't lose it. Like, I would comment on it and say, that's inappropriate, let's move on with our lives. You see what I'm saying?
First of all, on your point, of course!
Yeah.
That's not an interesting debate. Okay, and you're right, the irony of whoever sent the threats is like, you are harming President Trump's picture, so I will hurt all the kids. What? Right? I think that your offense might be slightly worse than their offense. Now, but is it an offense? And I want to ask a poll question about that. Mm-hmm. Because, look, there's one other wrinkle to it, too. Because if you just were firing at Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama target practice or something like stories we've covered before, that's unacceptable. But that's actually firing bullets. This is a piñata, and to your point about context, Trump went after Mexicans, right, and called them rapists and criminals. So if people put Obama's face on a piñata because he deported more Latinos than any other president in history, which is true, by the way. I don't think I'd be offended, right? It depends on the context. If they say, look, he broke the record on deportations and it wasn't the right thing to do, and we put his face on a piñata, I totally get that, right? So now I'm not sure that I would have done it, but I understand it, right? And I understand that there's a very uncomfortable imagery of an African American where you meet it, etc. So that is an extra piece of context,
right?
So that's why I think it's an interesting issue. Our poll here is tytnetwork.com/piñata, and we want to see was it inappropriate for the teacher to use a Trump piñata? Okay.
If the teacher was the one who encouraged it, by the way.
Okay. So that's, you can call it a hypothetical. Okay.
Right.
So I'm genuinely curious about this and where you guys come out on it. And I'm a little split. For the reasons that I just explained. You know how you're voting?
Well, if it's the teacher, I think it's inappropriate. Like, I don't want any teacher to do that. But if the teachers did it on their own, I don't really care that much who the politician is or what their ideology is. I think that it's a form of expression. And yes, I know that the First Amendment is limited when it comes to grade school campuses, even if they're publicly funded. But I think that it's important to allow kids to think critically and to share their political opinion and to encourage them to share their political opinion. I'm not saying encourage them to do violent things, but if they're frustrated about something, I think it's a teachable moment, and I think it's an opportunity to actually open up a discussion. So
yeah,
and also, look, I completely understand that in the past we have done stories where something like this happens or something similar happens, and we're outraged, right? But now I've gotten to a point where I'm tired of the outrage. I'm outraged at the people that are constantly outraged. Okay, it's a piñata. There's a bunch of high school students hitting a piñata that has Trump's face on it. I just overall don't care that much.
Okay, man. Interesting enough. Look, I keep thinking he attacked Latinos. It's a piñata. I get it, right? On the other hand, I keep thinking I don't want Bernie on a piñata. So
yeah,
it's a tough one. You decide. tytnetwork.com/piñata. All right. What's next, Anna?
All right. Turns out the new First Lady of France, and of course in France, First Lady isn't really a thing, but Emmanuel Macron's wife is a little different from Melania Trump. In fact, a lot of things are kind of reversed if you compare the two, and I thought that was fascinating, and I thought we'd have like a fun conversation about it. Nothing too serious. Now, her name is Brigitte, and the fascinating thing about her is actually a lot of things. She is wealthy. She was born into wealth. Her family is a family of chocolatiers. And I argue that if you are to be a wealthy person, that's probably the best way of being wealthy, right?
Like, how'd you get wealthy? Was it the oil business? Was it gambling? No, it was chocolates.
Yeah.
We're chocolatiers.
Yeah. Now, I know everyone, like, people's heads are exploding because I know Emmanuel Macron is, friendly with the banking industry and all that, blah, blah, blah. This is not a conversation about that, okay? Let's move past it. But what's interesting is they actually met when she was his teacher. They met when he was 15. In fact, currently, he's 39, she's 64. That is so interesting, right? And of course, they're getting a bunch of heat for it, a bunch of criticism. But think about it. If the roles were reversed, there's no criticism. There's this like, yeah, he got a young one, right? Like Trump and Melania Trump. She's very much younger than him. In this case, it's reversed.
Yeah. So, a couple of things here. One, it really does point out the sexism a little bit because nobody even considers criticizing Trump on Melania, and they have almost the same exact age difference as Macron and his wife. She just happens to be older, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, did you know she's 24 years older?" Okay, so let's get past that because that's obviously not a big deal. And
yeah.
It's like out of a French love story. He told her, "You will not get rid of me. I will come back and I will marry you." And she said it was impossible to resist him.
Okay, but here's another thing, right, which is also very French. She was married at the time that they met, And she was like, I'm married, get away from me, right? And he was just unrelenting, very persistent. And here's what she said about it. Love took everything in its path and led me to divorce. It was impossible to resist him.
Yeah. So that's where you get into the actual drama, right? Mm-hmm. So she was married, had 3 kids. They met when he was 15. Now, we don't know when they actually started their affair and relationship, right? He writes the letter about how you won't get rid of me when he's 17, right? So it's a little dicey. So if it started when he was 15, not really dicey, it's wrong. Okay, so that's just want to be clear about that, especially when she's a teacher.
That was your previous position on 15-year-old boys that get seduced by their teachers, but nonetheless.
Okay, all right. You want to point out hypocrisy? I hear you. Okay, and so, but that was a long time ago. I think we're past it now, and it is certainly an interesting story and an interesting couple. All right, we're out of time. We got to go. TYTnetwork.com/join. Bye-bye.